Have you ever really looked at a flower and wondered what's actually going on in there? Well, today we're going to pull back the petals on one of nature's most beautiful and, frankly, most incredible processes, how flowering plants reproduce. It's a story of attraction, of epic journeys, and some truly wild biology that's happening all around us, all the time.
This quote really nails it, doesn't it? We tend to think of flowers as just, well, pretty things for us to look at. But that's not their real purpose, not at all. Every single color, every scent, every shape is a carefully evolved tool in the high-stakes game of creating the next generation.
All right, so here's our game plan. First, we're going to figure out a flower's true mission. Then, we'll meet the key players, the male and female parts. After that, we'll follow the incredible journey of pollen, witness a biological miracle called double fertilization, and finally, watch how a flower makes its amazing transformation into a fruit.
Right, so all those stunning colors and amazing smells, they're not for us. They're actually brilliant, sophisticated advertisements and rewards, and they're all designed for one single vital goal: to make sure the plant species survives and continues to evolve.
And this is why it's so important. Sexual reproduction is how plants shuffle their genetic deck. It creates brand new combinations, new variations, which gives the species a much, much better shot at adapting and surviving in a world that's always changing. You could almost call it their evolutionary superpower. So to really get this story, we first need to meet the main characters. You can think of every flower as a tiny stage, and on that stage are the male and female reproductive organs, and each one has a very specific, very important role to play.
Think of it like two essential teams. On one side, you've got the male parts, the andrecium. Their whole job is to produce and send out pollen. And on the other side, you have the female parts, the gynecium, which are perfectly designed to receive that pollen and kick off the whole process of making a seed.
So let's zoom in on the male team. We've got the stamen. It's a really simple but totally elegant design. You have the filament, which is basically just a stalk, and its only job is to hold the anther up high, putting it in the absolute perfect position to release its pollen to the wind or, a passing bee. And at the top of that filament sits the anther. This thing is the pollen factory. Seriously, inside its pollen sacs, thousands upon thousands of tiny pollen grains are made, and each one is carrying the crucial male genetic material that's needed for fertilization.
Okay, now over to the female side, the pollen's final destination. This is the pistil. It's got this sticky tip called the stigma, which is like the perfect landing pad for incoming pollen. Then there's the style, a tube that guides the pollen down to the main event, the ovary at the base. And tucked away inside that ovary is the ovule. This is the secure chamber, the vault that contains the female egg cell. The entire epic journey of a single pollen grain is all about reaching this one specific, heavily protected target. All right, let's get to the action. We have our pollen ready to go in the anther, and the egg is waiting patiently in the ovule. So now comes the biggest challenge. How do you bridge the distance between them? Welcome to the great pollen voyage.
This is the fundamental problem for every single plant, right? They're literally rooted to the spot. So how on earth do they solve this long-distance matchmaking problem? How do they get their pollen from one flower to another that might be meters or even miles away?
The answer is pollination. This is the absolutely ingenious mechanism that plants have evolved to solve their immobility problem. It's simply the act of moving pollen from the anther to the stigma. But, and this is the key, they can't do it alone. They need help.
And plants basically have two main strategies for this. The first is the abiotic or non-living route. This is a total numbers game. They make a ridiculous amount of super light pollen and just release it into the wind, hoping for the best. The other route, the biotic one, is way more targeted, a clever partnership with animals who act as a delivery service.
But this animal delivery service isn't free. Plants have to offer payment, and these are the floral rewards. They serve up high-energy nectar, protein-packed pollen, and they use those bright colors and scents as flashy advertisements, all to convince animals to become their unwitting but super effective matchmakers. So, the pollen has landed. The great voyage is over. But honestly, the most incredible part of the story is just getting started. What happens next is a complex, almost magical process that is completely unique to flowering plants. Once pollen lands on that sticky stigma, it's not an automatic entry. A really sophisticated chemical conversation starts up. The pistil is basically checking the pollen's ID, making sure it's from the same species and that it's compatible. If it's the wrong kind, it's rejected. Only the right pollen gets the green light to proceed. It's like a secret handshake.
So once it's accepted, the pollen grain literally germinates. It grows this tiny tube all the way down through the style, navigating its way toward the ovule. This pollen tube is like a microscopic tunnel, and its one and only purpose is to deliver its precious cargo, 2 male gametes, right to the doorstep of the egg cell.
Now remember I said it delivers 2 male gametes? Why 2? Well, this is where flowering plants do something truly unique, something found nowhere else in nature. It's called double fertilization, and it involves 2 separate fusions happening at once.
This system is just unbelievably efficient. The first fusion creates the zygote. That's the future baby plant, the embryo. The second fusion creates something called the endosperm, which is a nutrient-packed food supply for the embryo. It's a brilliant no-waste strategy. The plant only invests energy in making the food after it confirms that fertilization was a success. So one fusion makes the baby, and the other makes its lunchbox.
Okay, with fertilization complete, the flower's main mission is accomplished. But the story isn't over yet. Now a great transformation begins, as the flower prepares for the final stage, creating a vessel that will protect and disperse the next generation.
So here's how it all goes down. The zygote grows into the embryo, powered by its food supply, the endosperm. The ovule that surrounds them hardens up and becomes a seed. At the same time, the ovary around the ovule swells and ripens into a fruit. And those beautiful petals, their job is done. They wither and fall away. The flower essentially sacrifices itself for the sake of the fruit and the seed.
And why should any of this matter to us? Well, because this ancient biological drama is the very foundation of our food system. I mean, every time you eat an apple, a tomato, or a berry, you're eating a plant's ripened ovary. Every single grain of rice or wheat, every nut you eat, is actually the embryo and its packed lunch that a plant worked so incredibly hard to create.
It just boggles the mind when you think about it. A seed isn't just a potential plant, it's a masterpiece of survival. It's a time capsule of life. If a tiny seed can wait 10,000 years for just the right moment to spring to life, what other incredible secrets of survival and resilience are locked away inside these tiny, perfect packages?